Hey Guru Nation, welcome back to theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, it's theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Thank you very much for watching. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. Follow me on all the social networks. Doing No Shave November, so don't be weirded out. I didn't get older all of a sudden. I just look it. We'll see if I like it. We'll see how long it lasts. So send your questions, Dan at theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Again, you can always call or text me anytime, 949-415-6256. Follow me on all the social networks, Snapchat and Instagram. As of November of 2016 are my two favorite, but Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever you prefer. And Dan at theclinicaltrialsguru.com is the email. Okay, so today's question actually comes from someone who directly messaged me on YouTube, which is my least favorite way of doing it, but let me get to it. So, hey, I've watched a few of the videos. Let's skip through that. Do you have any advice on study coordinator to study ratio? And then there's a bunch of other questions. So, from what you encounter, how much is too much workload for a coordinator? What leads to burnout with trials increasing in complexity? The CRCs, which are the clinical research coordinators, have many items they juggle. What support sources can you request? How is time calculated in order to ensure the CRC is able to coordinate studies and meet quality standards? Okay, so a lot of questions here. I'm going to do my best. And this is actually really good for site owners. So I've been a site owner. I mean, you can look at my bio, but since '05. And early on, like literally when I got my first employees, I started wrestling with this topic. And this is why it's really helpful to have been a study coordinator prior to becoming a owner, right? Also, many PIs, principal investigators, they do some study coordinating in their residency programs, even though it's not real private industry sponsored trials. They're usually academic trials, so it's very compartmentalized, but it still gives them some context into how much of a workload they can assign to their coordinators. So the first way I look at it, and there's a lot of variables, right? I mean, every study's different. Some studies are very simple and others are extremely complicated. Some studies have 5 to 10 minute visits. Other studies have 5 to 8 hour visits, right? So that's one variable, is the complexity of the study, and that's subjective, right? So the difficulty of that particular trial. The second variable is frequency of visits, right? So is it a study with just one visit and then the patient's done? Does the patient come back every 30 days? Does the patient come back every 2 weeks? Does the patient come back once a week? Does the patient come every day? Does the patient come every other day? These are more variables, right? And this is what you're going to have to look at when you're looking at your study coordinator workload, right? Finally, how many patients do you plan to enroll in this study? Because as site owners, as coordinators, as PIs, you may have 10 studies, and you're only busy with like 1 or 2 of them, right? Or that's 3, 1 or 2 of them, because the other 8 or 9, you're not going to get patients for. Okay, you oversimplified the recruitment aspect, and you realized, as most sites do when they take on studies, this is why recruitment is an issue. The biggest issue in this industry is that they actually don't have the patients they thought they did. So you may have 10 studies, but only 1 or 2 are keeping you busy, or maybe 0 are keeping you busy, and then you might be out of business soon. So those are the 3 variables I would focus on, and then just doing some basic math. Again, I hate to oversimplify things, but for the purpose of answering this question, I will try. A typical study visit, again, very much like cookie cutter average numbers from my experience anecdotally, is an hour for the patient visit, maybe 2 hours. Okay, for some visits, like I said, it could be 5, 6, 7 hours for a study visit. But let's say it's 1 hour, okay, for easy math. 1 hour, the patient comes in, the patient leaves. Now you typically have 3 hours of work after the patient leaves getting all the data put into the EDC system, getting the source documents filed away, getting medical records, looking at AEs, all that stuff, all that behind the scenes admin stuff, regulatory, right? 3 hours. So now that's 4 hours for that patient visit. Okay, one for the when they were there for the actual visit, and then 3 for all the back end stuff. Okay, so that's 4 hours. Most people, most coordinators work 8 hours, and I would say for the most part, and this is not just coordinators, this is employees everywhere, myself included. You may be present at your job for 8 hours, but you're only doing actual work between 4 to 5, 6 for the really good employees, maybe 7, right? But there's an hour for lunch, there's bathroom breaks, there's always the inevitable talking to somebody about something at the water cooler, coffee breaks, some employees going smoking. There's like all kinds of distraction. Then there's this, right? There's Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, YouTube. So 4 to 5 hours of actual work in a workday, right? So that pretty much, if you had a patient that came in, it took an hour, and then you have 3 hours on the back end, your workday is done. So you really can only see one patient a day and do your job well for that study coordinator, right? Now, maybe you have only one study, but your site is able to enroll a lot of patients in that study, and so your coordinator is seeing one patient a day and spending the entire workday doing the work associated with that visit. Well, there's no more time to do anything else, right? And now some days, this is more likely to happen. Some days you'll have no visits. Other days you'll have a visit that will take the whole day, and then you'll have maybe another day of no visits, and then another day where you have a patient that will take all day. So in that case, that study coordinator is not overworked. In the first case, that study coordinator is not overworked either, but they probably could not do another study at the same enrollment rate with the same study visits properly, right? So that's when people start cutting corners because there's just not enough time in the day, and people are not going to cut their lunch break, although some do, but you're required, at least in California, to take a lunch break. So these are the things you gotta deal with, and if you're a site director or a site owner, these are the things you need to look at. I mean, you don't need you don't need to read academic papers on how to manage the workday properly, or what is this person asking for? Any resources or references for how the coordinators can meet quality standards. As long as you're following GCP, your own site SOPs, and the protocol, there's nothing else that matters. And your monitors are going to let you know, because monitors come every 6 weeks, typically every 6 to 8 weeks. And if your site is screwing up, the monitor is going to let you know. They always do. So you'll know right away whether the quality of the work of your coordinator is good. And you should also have QA systems in place. So that's one of the things I do at my sites. We have quality assurance people in place. So when the coordinator sees the patient, does the work, then we have a QA person go in there, look at the source, look at the EDC, look at the regulatory, make sure everything's there, make sure we're following GCP. Those are the kind of resources that a site should give to their coordinators. As far as workload, I know some sites, I've done this myself, we've overworked coordinators. I've also done the opposite. I've completely underworked coordinators. I've let people sit there doing nothing for months because they were good employees, but I just didn't have the patience, or I didn't have the studies at the time. So coordinators are overworked many times. Coordinators are underworked many times. It's really feast or famine in this industry. And really the only metrics I have, again, anecdotally, are the 4 to 6 real hours of work. And so as long as they can adequately perform their job, regardless of how many patients are coming in, typically it's 1 to 2, maybe 3 patients a day. If the actual patient visits don't last an hour, like if they last 20 minutes, then you can probably see 3 And yeah, a lot of the back end work is going to pile up, but as it becomes more repetitive, it becomes quicker, right? So hopefully this helps. Maybe it doesn't. I think that from my experiences, this is kind of the right answer, at least puts you on the right track. So let me know if you have further questions, and I will talk to you guys soon. Take care.